Miguel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call to order the December 5th, 2024 Capital Fund Protection Committee meeting at 4 o'clock. And we'll go ahead and start out with roll call, please.
Paul Anderson,
Here?
Clara Andriola,
Present.
Elise Bunkowski, Charlene Bybee, Chris Cobb,
Here.
Andrew Diss,
Here.
Jean Herman, Justin Ivory, Miguel Martinez,
Here.
Devin Reese,
Here.
Craig Wessner. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. That will bring us to item number 2 for public comment. And do we have any public comment today?
Not for this item.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close this item and move on to 2.01, approval of minutes for the October 31st, 2024 meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And then we'll move on to 202, presentation, discussion, possible action to approve the 2024 Capital Improvement Program Annual Accountability Report, which includes a summary of the current status of completion, budgets, expenditures for previously approved construction, renovation, and repair projects in Washoe County School District. Good afternoon.
Am I on? Okay. Good afternoon. For the record, Dawit Hadgu. I'm the Deputy Chief for Capital Projects and Facility Management Department.
And if I could interrupt for just a moment.
Sure.
And just want to recognize that another one of the members is here, Mr. Ivory. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
We can go. Okay. Great. All right. Good afternoon again. So we're happy to present you with our annual accountability report. We make a little change just to make the presentation better. So hopefully you can read it from your handouts, but maybe the writings on the screen may not be legible because the text is a little too small and the shape or the landscaping of the paper itself in a vertical section. So probably it would be helpful to read it from here. The first or the second page of it, I just want to read a section where our Chief Facility Management Officer, Tammy Zimmerman, had a message. On the second paragraph that I want to read, the success we shared today are rooted in the trust and support of our community, which approved the WC1 bond in 2016. This bond has enabled us to invest over $1.3 billion in vital projects. From construction, new schools to modernization, existing facilities, and major maintenance projects. The progress highlighted here demonstrates how this funding is actively shapes the future of our education in Washoe County. I think that's basically the message that we're trying to do. You allow us to use the money, and we try to take the money as far as we can to make a change in our education system, as well as trying to modernize our buildings into modern technology with a lot of energy saving or to lower down the carbon contents in our environment. And some of the focus on my discussion today will be in those areas. Not only we're spending the money to build new buildings or doing renovation works, but at the same time trying to improve our industry, our working and educational environment for our students and staff is what the goal is. Going to the next page, which I'm supposed to do this. Maybe you can click it from there. Okay, that was the message. And on the second page, last April, actually, we were awarded for the facility modernization plan. There was an organization called Annual Cashman Good Governance Award in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we became one of the 5 finalists for that. The one that got the award is UNR, and the reason why they awarded is because they were giving our Washoe County schools students to have a passage into their campuses. So it's a win-win situation for us. We are the finalists, and the end result is to help our students. So that was a fun trip that we had. The next page is basically, we're just trying to highlight the projects that we have for this year. And as you can see, we have a long list of schools, and we try to provide you at least the schedule when it's open, and the amount of money that we are spending into those projects. And they're all in the high millions of dollars, which is amazing. And I want to give kudos to the design and construction team who are managing this thing throughout this challenge. Another tiny typing in here, so hopefully you can read it from your writing. So these are allocations since the passing of WC1 bond. And as you can see, it's a long list, $1.13 billion that we're looking at. And the one below it is only for the capital renewal, which is this year we have for 2024, we have a $50 million budget allocation for our all capital renewal programs. But this shows you how the expenditure was in the past since 2016. When we focus on the FY24 for the capital renewal program, we have about 294 projects, and 167, or about 57% of them, are being completed today, because some of the projects are for multi-year. And as you can see, 18% of them are in design phase, and 25% of them are under construction for now. So hopefully, with the remaining about 3 weeks our time, there will be some project that will be completed between now and the end of the year. Another example, what we're trying to show you in here at Classroom is the one on the left is from Otis Vaughn Middle School, what the classroom looks like. And the one on the right is O'Brien Middle School, which is the same classroom, and the difference about lighting, the finishes, it gives a good environment for education. It's got bright lights, it's got LED lights that could be controlled, the flooring, the walls. It gives you an ambience that a kid will be happy and a teacher will be happy to teach, and the students to learn from that environment. This page is basically, if anybody wants to know a little more detail about our data, in our website, we can get all this information. So as you can see, the red buttons, you can press them and trying to see more details. We're trying to highlight them on this few pages, but anybody interested on any additional information, they can go into our website and they can find more information. more information about major projects and zoning, school naming, capital fund appropriation committee, and other facility master plan information also can be found in this web page. This one is how we measure basically our project success. As everybody knows, when we bid a job, we find most of the time the lower bidder to get the job, and then what we call the change order, which means that the contractor is going to look at the document and they're going to say, well, there's a lot of missing information, and now I'm going to charge you more money. If you see a lower number percentage, which means that the change order level is so low that the documents have been thoroughly good and very few unforeseen conditions may force you to have some change orders, which we allocate them part of our budget. So as you can see, for all bids which are over $85,000, we always allocate about 15% for contingencies and unforeseen conditions. That could be site-related, that could be things that could be missed, or some unknown environmental condition can happen. But if you look at our track records from 21 to 24, we're not even hitting 5% yet, which means that we have enough meat to the don'ts and the documents that it is very solid, that the contractor are not asking us for a lot of money. The first part is for the capital renewal project, which is a $50 million. So those are the budgets and the change order percentage for that one. The major project, which is brand new schools or major renovations, we usually put between 2.5 to 5% depending on the complexity and the timeline of a project. And as you can see, only on the FY23, I'm not sure exactly, but there's only a 6.1% on that one. But this year we put it down to 3.35, so we're on the right track. And you can see from the graphics on how those distributions are. This is the area that I want to focus a little bit more, because the energy efficiency sustainability, we actually hired a new manager. We are very lucky to have a very qualified person to help us to put our energy and sustainability programs. And throughout the years, as we build modern buildings and modern technology, at the same time, it's helping us to manage our energy and sustainability costs and creating a better environment for teaching and learning. And I just throw in a couple of slides in here, like in 2024, we spent about $11 million worth of energy. The breakdown is on the left side. And the savings that we've got for that same year is about almost $2 million worth of a saving that we got through NV Energy programs. But it's not only the saving that we get the money or the rebates that we get the money, but there's an avoidance cost that by building smart buildings, your energy cost will come down. And as you can see on the right side, on the annual avoidance cost from 2019 to 2024, as our portfolio grows, but our energy consumption is actually going down, which means that we're building a modern building with modern technology and more environmentally friendly buildings. That's saving us or avoiding some costs on that one. Overall, since July 2018, we saved about $11.6 million on the cost avoidance, and then about 1.1 direct incentive from NV Energy as a rebate only. So that's a very positive news on that. This one is focusing on the renewal programs, which means that we may going to change an HVAC system. And how does that impact our school in terms of providing them an environment, a good environment, at the same time it saves us money too. So as you can see from the graph, we just took Hidden Valley Elementary School as an example, a test fit. And you can see before the change how the utility cost is going up, and after the change, it starts dropping down, which means that's a lot of saving on there. This page is for about new schools, and our new schools that are built in a high performance for energy consumes only about 57% less energy than schools built before 2017. Same story, and a couple of more graphics just to tell you how our database is tracking in terms of our savings and cost avoidance. Besides doing building or designing smart buildings or energy efficient buildings, we're also going after tax incentives or other entities who can give us rebates. So recently, after we opened J. Wood Row Elementary School, the geothermal, which is an energy saving from the ground, we are going through the process right now, and it indicates we may going to get about over $1 million back into our coffers for money. That's about, from all the cost for that geothermal, including the design fee, the construction fee, it's about 30% of that cost. We're going to reclaim it. So going forward, all our energy savings, we're going to go after every tax incentives that we can get so that we can bring money back. Not only we're making the building smarter and better, but we're also trying to make money out of it.
Before you go any further on this one, I did have a question on this slide.
Yes.
It says 36 schools have renewable PV systems. What's PV?
Oh, photovoltaic, sorry, it's the solar panel. It
Okay.
means solar panel. Sorry for that one.
So that stands for photovoltaic? Is that-
Photovoltaic, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So in conclusion, major projects to date, Washoe County School Districts invested about $171 million towards major projects in the FY 2024. Projects are completed in multiple years. In the capital renewal plan, we have about $30 million spent out of the $50 million that you guys allow us to use to date, which means that about 167 projects out of the 294 has been completed. The rest of the pages are basically this. I'm sorry, it's too small to read it, but this is the team and the collaboration from our operations department to our facility department, management department, finance and purchasing department, and of course, your team and the board of trustees. With all your help, we were successful to deliver this information. And the next two pages basically, and overall is what is a capital project review. If you guys want to read it more about it, there's more details. And then last page is what did we do in the past year to improve our systems. Some of the highlights are we are using a software called Procore to track our projects, which is a communications between our designers, construction department, and contractors. All information goes through the system. We don't lose emails. All documents are going to be archived in there for a while, and everybody can access them on their mobile devices or in their computers. So for easy access to know what's going on, they can use that. Facility utilization and space tracking, construction standard procedures. We're working on those with other districts and our local partners. We're trying to create what I call the construction Bible, where it tells you what's our expectation. What are we trying to get so that message goes out to our architects, engineers, and contractors and subcontractors. They know what we're looking for. So it's a vision of our vision. It's our vision that we're the way to share them so that they will understand what we're trying to achieve from them. There's a professional development and training. We are sending our staff to get more education in their fields. People who are managing people, they will take some management classes, some of them in the TMCC or online. We're trying to buy them books and give them access to websites so that we can help them. And community and vendor engagement, we are actually trying to reach out to our partners in town, whether they're going to be consultants or contractors, so that we will share the dream for this area and for the Washoe County residents, what we're trying to achieve and to help them out. And the last page is about basically if anybody wants to reach us, if anybody has any questions, they can send us an email or call our office, and we're trying to help as much as we can. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If I cannot answer it, I have Tammy behind me. I'm going to bring her over.
All right, well, thank you very much. Questions? Mr. Cobb?
Hey, on page 8, your change orders. So on both of those, that percentages of, say, capital renewal, you had a 15% contingency. So you only hit, saying 21, 3.7% of that in that contingency?
For this year, you mean, the 3.6?
Oh, I'm just looking at your graph there.
Yeah, yes.
It says FY '21, 3.7. So that's only 3.7% of the 15 you budgeted. Is that correct? So really, you guys are falling well below on your contingencies. So the drawings are getting better. The
Yes.
bidding is getting better. It's
Correct.
more accurate. That's
Yeah,
really, really nice to see. It's impressive.
yeah. And our internal, sorry, are you done?
Go ahead.
Our internal team actually is reviewing the documents really well so that they're feeding them back what's missing before we hit the bidding phase, because that's where you have to catch it right away. Otherwise, if you let it go, maybe the percentage would have gone up.
When most of all your capital renewal, remind me, those are hard bids, right? That's impressive for
Most
hard bids.
Yeah,
That's usually where you see your greatest change order issue.
yeah.
On the next page, on 9, can I keep going? Thank you, Chair. Just on your electricity, I remember prior to Dr. Getty's working with him, and it sounds like you have a new individual.
Correct.
There for a while, if I remember right, the geothermal actually was paying back quicker than what had originally been estimated. I know Ainsworth was doing those, and was it about 7 years a return on that? Do you?
Do you remember that number? I don't remember that one.
Tammy Zimmerman, Chief Facilities Management Officer. It's a little bit longer than 7 years. We really do it because of the uncertainty of electricity and utility costs and that. So what we had when we did the buildings in 2017 with Desert Sky, Sky Ranch, and Pulikitas, we did that modeling to see what that payback was, and it's about 20-year payback.
Okay, I thought it had. I know Ainsworth had done some models, I believe, that showed 1, but you were getting a quicker.
What we've done
Appears.
recently with the new ones is it's about a 20-year payback, but we also talked about last time the maintenance of them compared to the other, and the maintenance is for a traditional system is about $7,000 to $8,000 a year. The ground source heat pumps are about $3,000 a year. So
Okay.
it saves in maintenance over those years as well.
Okay. One more.
Go ahead.
On page 10, just your Hidden Valley graph, that was a controls only project that we saw that grade of improvement?
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
controls only, which means, changing VFDs, changing how that system works just minorly
Right,
helps it to save that much.
that's substantial, so no units, that was control systems.
Yeah.
Controls only.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the last one, so it looked like over the life of this, 315 million, if I'm looking at that right, in capital renewal.
Yeah,
That's not new, capital renewal. So I remember when we were setting up the FICA system, we were kind of ugly on our score. With this kind of investment, are you seeing, looking at the ficus overall of the district? Are we seeing that change for the better overall, or holding water with everything we add?
I would probably say we're holding water because we've added so many new schools too. Those start to age, right?
Right.
I mean, 2017 was a long time ago now, 7 years. So it's starting to see that age in there. So they add to that number again. The facility modernization is really going to change that score
Okay.
significantly. We're keeping up, but I think we need to do better with our facility modernization and get that number down.
And as part of this getting passed, that was what, as a district and all of us that may or may not have voted for this, that's what we wanted to see improved. The committee's here to help guide and allocate funds here to see that improvement. So, I mean, it's very nice to see how this is being spent. And yes, you've added, but with the modernization plan, I do hope that we see, this investment is being done and spent well. So at least that's what I see here.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ivory.
Okay, there's obviously a lot of information here. On page 9, I've just got a silly question. What's the difference between electricity and utility electricity? Other than $2.5 million?
I have to get back to you on that one, so that I want to make sure that our new energy management will give me the right description. But I thought there was an answer than that. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Because when NB Energy is charging us, they're charging us in different two ways. They're charging us. There's a lump sum way of doing, and then some individual school. So somehow the dashboard is giving me those two information. So I'm sorry for not.
Gotcha. One of these isn't renewable. This is both from NB Energy. It's just two different ways that they're charging us. That's fine. That's all I need. Okay.
But I'll follow up with that one just to make sure.
Okay. I appreciate that. That's all I had.
Any other questions? I had one for you guys. So I love the information that you're providing, the transparency of it. I had a question on tracking people that are coming to the site and actually looking at this information. Are we seeing information on how many people, how often, anything like that we're able to follow and track?
So our community communication department tracks a lot of those hits onto the website, and we don't see a lot of people that are very interested in this information.
Okay, that's unfortunate. So one ask that I would have is, could we do a better job of getting it out there that this is easily accessible and people have it available? Because so many people are so passionate about the schools and what kind of condition they're in and how the district is doing overall. I wonder if we did a better job of communicating to the public that this is readily available and easily accessible to everybody, if maybe more people would be interested in it.
The district is upgrading their webpage and their
Okay.
website, so hopefully that'll bring some of it to it. We've tried to make it more easily accessible, and we can work on that as well as touting it when we talk about it at the board meetings, in our community meetings, and that when we talk about, we're going to have a facility modernization meeting at Reed next week. So maybe that's where we actually need to speak a little bit to that, about, hey, by the way, you can find this information if you're interested, and celebrating those. We don't do a good enough job about celebrating some of our accomplishments, except here with you guys.
Well, and to be honest, I can't say that I've told anybody about this either. So I think maybe that's part of our role as well, is same thing, celebrating the success of the program. So, all right, anything else before we close this? Oh, actually, this is an action item, and do we have public comment?
Yes, we do, from Evelyn Melendrez.
Okay, I'll tell you what, why don't we go ahead and take your public comment now, please? And if you'll just start out by stating your name for the record, please.
My name is Evelyn Melendres Barrera, and I come from Hug High School. I would like to talk about why I believe all schools should have the same education and sponsorship funding to ensure every student has an equal chance to succeed. Equal funding can bridge gaps between different communities and providing fair access to quality education, resources, and opportunities for all. Schools should have equal funding to ensure that all students have access to a high quality education regardless of the family's income or the community they live in. I believe that this can improve students and our outcomes after high school. By having the right resources, we know that this can help us overcome obstacles that can improve our lives, as well as making us all equal. In my high school time, I have experienced many times not being able to have the necessary resources for many of my classes, therefore resulting in me and my family spending a lot of our money on school-related objects. This can also tie into how I missed out on many great opportunities that could have helped me grow because of the costs. At that, I don't remember the last time that I have been on a field trip to see other parts of our community because of the funding and our private sponsorships. Sponsorships giving equal opportunities to each school can help ensure that all students, no matter where they come from or what they go through, succeed in their path. It can allow every student to reach their potential, plus it provides fairness, which is always a good thing. If we could raise up the funding in our education, we can ensure that a positive growth and success in our community school-wide. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Well, thank you very much for taking time to come down and speak before us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, if we don't have any other questions, the motion is actually in your packet there. If anyone is willing to make that motion, please.
I'll move that the Capital Funding Protection Committee approves the, I move the Capital Funding Protection Committee approves the 2024 Capital Improvement Program Annual Accountability Report.
Right, thank you. All right, we'll flip a coin here. Mr. Ivory? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And 2.03, presentation discussion to update the Capital Funding Protection Committee on the Edward C. Reed High School Modernization Construction Phase Budget. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Teresa Polson, Director of Planning and Design for Capital Projects. So just going to start out with a little bit of background on this Reed High School project. Back in 2023, December, our facility modernization plan was approved by the Board of Trustees. And as part of that plan, Reed High School was identified to be our first high school to receive a modernization project. Therefore, we went directly into hiring Collaborative Design Studio for architecture services. Shortly thereafter, we did an RFP for our construction manager at risk services, and we retained Plenty and Builders for that. It was soon discovered pretty quickly after the design team evaluated the project that we would need to retain our switchgear, electrical switchgear for the project. So we did come to this committee to request funding for that material back in October. So the design team has been very, very busy meeting with the school and performing our programming meetings with the school to make sure we're designing the spaces appropriately for them. We actually met with Student Voice at the high school today, which we had a great meeting and got some really good feedback from Student Voice, so it was a good meeting. Here in a couple weeks, we'll also be meeting with the police department to finalize all of our safety and security improvements. We have a community meeting planned at the high school here on December 12th in a couple weeks. So we're really excited to show the community our new plans and get their feedback. On December 19th, we are also having or presenting our plans to the City of Sparks Planning Commission. So the goal of this project really, of course, is to try and meet our education specifications for the high school. Try to provide those spaces that our new Hug High School has that Reed is deficient in. So that has resulted in about a 70,000 square foot expansion at Reed High School with a capacity of about 2,600 students. There's a long list here, but bear with me because I really think it's worth going through because it's pretty exciting. We'll be providing 10 new classrooms and removing all those portables in the back of the school. Yay! We'll be providing a new band and orchestra space. We'll be providing a new weight room and activity room, new student hub and group study rooms, and also be providing a new interior corridor that surrounds that courtyard at Reed. If you know that space at all, that courtyard, or all the kids have to actually go outside to get to the cafeteria right now. So we're providing that interior circulation so they can get to the cafeteria without having to go outside. Interior improvements that we'll be doing is a new media center. We'll be replacing the showers and the locker rooms in the school. We'll be providing new air conditioning in the gym. That's another big yay. You should have seen the kids today when we told them in student voice. They were very excited. We'll be converting at least one set of existing restrooms into our new general use restrooms, and then providing new finishes in the hallways as much as possible within budget, if we can. Exterior improvements that we'll be doing is we will be pretty much replacing that whole that whole interior courtyard. Right now it's kind of different levels and it's not very ADA friendly. But in addition to that, we'll be installing a new shade structure so that they can do some outdoor learning, do events out there, and eat lunch. We'll be providing 2 new tennis courts for a total of 6, 2 new basketball courts. We will be installing new artificial turf for the football field due to the amount of use that field gets, not only by the school but the community. It was decided that artificial turf would be probably the best choice. We'll be installing a new press box out at the fields, new ground storage building with exterior restrooms that will be central to all of those fields, which will be nice to have an extra set of restrooms out there. And then we'll be refreshing the entry and the exterior facade of the building, again, as much as possible within budget, but we've got some really, really cool ideas coming. And then lastly, that I failed to put on this list, though, is we'll be enhancing the landscape significantly. City of Sparks is asking us to put quite a large number of trees in at that site, so we're trying to get as many in there as possible. The safety improvements that we're proposing are, of course, a new single-point entry at the front of the school, enhanced fencing, cameras, and access control. Any questions on this slide? There's a lot to it. Okay. So this really is just a site plan that shows the phasing of the work that's proposed at this point, but the main thing I wanted to show you here is really where the expansion areas are going to be. And does my pointer work? I don't think so. That's okay. So I just wanted to point out the athletics addition will be happening on sort of the north end of the building or the back of Reed High School, where, you know, really the locker rooms and such are there right now. And then the classroom addition will be in the southeast corner of the school, kind of closer to Bering. And then the band addition will be on the southwest end of the school. And then you can see the other areas where we're just expanding the basketball courts, the tennis courts, and of course the field areas on the west side.
If I could ask a
Yes.
question here. So
Sure.
this was one thing I wasn't sure on. In that courtyard area, where it says hub addition.
Yeah.
So were these actually going to be classrooms? Is that part of what's going to be going into that area?
So not in that center area. So in that center area right now, that whole entire yellow section is actually the courtyard. So we will be shrinking the courtyard a little bit to construct the hub, what we call our student hub, and those little group rooms. That's going to be sort of in that area.
Okay, so the courtyard will actually be smaller than
Yes,
what it currently is?
It will be a little bit smaller, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to include some of our new renderings that the architect has provided. We're still working on those, so I wasn't able to supply a lot, but I at least wanted to supply this one to just kind of show you where the design is headed. We thought it was really important as the design team to provide a more pronounced entry for Reed High School. Right now it's really set back, which is the photo on the right. The new entry, we're really popping that out. So that's the rendering that you see on the left. I think the architect has done a really nice job providing continuity and to match the existing design of the school. And we'll be showing you more of those renderings at our next meeting in February. So our estimates for this project are for construction, GMP 1 and 2, specifically the range of construction right now is estimated to be between 73 and 77 million. And then total construction phase costs for GMP 1 and GMP 2 between 83 and 87 million. Our next steps for the schedule is that our GMP 1 contract for that switchgear that I mentioned earlier will be approved by the board this month. In February, I'll be coming back to this committee to request funding for full GMP 1 and GMP 2 construction. Then we'll roll right into bidding and then start construction in June of 2025 with total completion in summer of 2027. That concludes my presentation for Reed High School. Any questions?
All right, Mr. Diss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Teresa, I'm looking at the numbers here. So this is going to increase student capacity by about 200 students. What are we at currently in enrollment at Reed?
Our enrollment right now is 2,100.
How does that compare to Galena or McQueen, who have that same style of school?
As far as their current enrollments? Or?
Yeah, both. And I mean, I'm assuming they're able to hold pretty close to that 2,400 number of students at the other high schools.
Yes, I'm assuming that their capacities are all very similar between those three schools. I don't know what their current enrollments are at those other schools.
Do you know if Reed's higher, lower?
I don't. Tammy, do you happen to know?
Looks like it's higher.
Guys?
I'm just, the reason I'm asking is
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, those other two schools have needs, and I'm trying to remember how we got here by prioritizing Reed over those other two very similar schools. And so if they got more students and they need more space and they need the stuff sooner, that's why I'm asking.
So Reed was constructed prior, was the first one constructed of these three similar. McQueen is similar, Reed is similar to Galena in that, but Reed has a higher enrollment than the other schools. So they are an older school and have a little bit higher enrollment.
Mr. Ivory.
Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. So are we going to now be 70,000 square feet, or are we doing a 70,000 square foot addition?
70,000 square foot addition.
How are we figuring? Are like we including the football field square footage and all that in that? Is that what we're doing?
No?
That's a square footage addition for the classroom addition and the hub spaces and the band storage spaces, right? We're taking all of those students that are out in the mobiles and we're bringing them under roof and providing the spaces that they need to provide the curriculum with band and all of the ed specs spaces that new Proctor Hug has, and providing them with equity to this school as well.
How big is this school now?
It's not 210. 210.
So 210, right? And then Hug is about 280,000 square feet. So
Okay,
they'll
thank
be
you.
comparable.
Yes, Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a few meetings ago, we talked about funding replacing the grass on the fields. Are we gonna kind of push that aside since we're gonna do turf?
So based off of working with an engineer and studying those, the study of the water versus maintenance and that, and the use that the community has for that field, and the quantity of time that's on it, it was determined to replace it with artificial turf for the durability of that. And so,
Understood.
yes, the grass, we're not putting real grass on, we're putting artificial on there.
Because it was a few meetings ago, was it in capital renewal or something? We had that discussion that we were funding to fix the grass there. This is a couple meetings ago. We had a long conversation about the history of that.
We did have a long conversation about the history of that. I think that was with some of the updates that we talked about with Reed. It's not in the capital renewal for that.
Okay.
What was in capital renewal are the HVAC for the rooftops, the gym floor, the bleachers, and those kind of items were in capital renewal.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure
We're not doing it twice this year,
Yeah.
promise.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a question, just want to make a comment. You were talking about the landscape changes. Just so everyone knows, it's actually a non-conformance approval that we're looking at because of the fact that based on the layout and the restrictions in Sparks, if I remember correctly, it was something like 1,200 trees or some crazy amount that was
Yes.
supposed to be there in the first place. There's like over 100 now, and we're asking for, I think, another 100?
You're asking for, yeah, I think we were trying to install about 150 and you're asking for about 200, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough fit, but we're looking at it right now to see what we can do.
Yeah, so what's interesting from the city of Sparks side, we're looking at going, well, wait a minute, it's non-conformance that we're looking to approve. Why is that? But yeah, the fact that over 1,000 trees being required in the first place was a little much. but
Yeah.
Anyway,
How much are Paul's trees gonna increase the water bill by?
Exactly.
thank you. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that. All right, any other questions? And this one was just for a presentation, so thank you very
Update,
much.
yep.
All right, and we'll move on to 205. Presentation discussion to update Capital Funding Protection Committee on current usage of mobile classrooms within Washoe County School District.
This
Oh.
one's up, yeah. Matthews.
Man, 2 meetings
You're
in a
just
row, I'm
speeding
trying to
everything
skip us,
along.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get us out of here before 5. So yeah, let's try this again then. 204 for the Capital Funding Protection Committee on Bernice Matthews Elementary School Modernization Construction Phase Budget Presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm Teresa Polson, Director of Planning and Design. Eddie was going to present today, but he is under the weather, so I am not Eddie. I'll be. So very similar presentation on this project. The schedule is pretty similar to Reed, so you'll see a lot of very similarities between these, the schedule on this project. So again, a little history. Facility modernization plan that was approved did deem Bernice Matthews to be the first identified elementary school to receive a modernization. So we did retain Van Wart Bugatti Architects to provide the design services and again put out an RFP for construction manager at risk services, and we retained core construction for that. Currently, this project is in the design development stage. Again, we're trying to meet our education specifications for our elementary schools. It has our designers have provided a design for an 11,000 square foot expansion at Matthews to provide a capacity for approximately 875 students. Again, we will remove the portables from this site. We'll be providing approximately 6 new classrooms, also some additional office space, a new media center, a new student hub. We'll be converting some existing restrooms into our general use restrooms, a new shade structure outside for outdoor learning. And again, safety improvements will be providing our current design for our single point entry and additional secure perimeter fencing. So this is the site plan. I just wanted to show where the expansion areas will be. At this site, they'll be on the west side of the school, or the back of the school also is where that classroom, well, 4 of those classrooms will be. And then also on the east side, we'll be doing some additional classrooms. And then this is just really a close-up of that to show where the 4 additional classrooms on top, along with a student hub area and that sort of additional office suite. On the bottom left is where we'll be providing 2 additional classrooms and some additional, the dark purple that you're seeing is additional restrooms for those classrooms. And then also inserting a set of additional restrooms in between 2 of those kinder classrooms. The pink area is the new STEAM lab, and then just above that would be the new media center. Construction phase estimates for this project. Construction particularly is between $8 million and $10 million, and with a total construction phase estimate between 9.3 and 11.3 million. Our schedule for this, or next steps, are again to come back to this committee for funding requests for RGMP in February. Don't really know at this point if that's going to be 2 GMPs. We're just really getting the CMAR contractor on board, so that's still, I think, deemed to be determined on if it may be 1 or more of those GMPs. But again, the plan would be to roll right into bidding in April and starting construction in July. And construction is estimated to be complete sometime in 2027. Questions on this one?
Questions for Teresa? Yes, Mr. Ivory.
The professional services, that's the architect, engineer, all the design drawings, or is that our new name for construction manager?
That's correct. It's a new name for construction, the owner representative.
Can we go back to calling it construction manager? And here's why. Because to me, it's confusing as heck, because there's a lot of professionals that work on these schools, right? But if we're only talking about the construction manager,
Yeah.
then let's call it the construction manager on the
No,
sheet.
that is a multitude of construction management services that
Okay.
fall under professional services.
So this is our construction manager. Who else is included?
So it's the construction manager, it's the construction administration phase for the architect, it's the oversight for potentially roofing, it's the oversight for hazardous materials, it's the special inspections and oversight. I think that about covers it, but.
Is it a pretty equal share across the board, or do we have, like, somebody's like more than half this number?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely varying prices for all of that stuff. And again, until we know the final scope of this one, it's kind of hard to say.
Okay.
And schedule.
So when you guys bring it back to us, can you break it out for me?
It'll be broken out.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Just, this is an update, so, and a pretty rough estimate at this point.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, now I think we can move on to 2.05. Presentation, discussion to update the Capital Funding Protection Committee on current usage of mobile classrooms.
Good afternoon again. For the record, my name is David Hadgu. I'm the Deputy Chief for Facility Management Officer. Before I jump for the mobiles, can I get back to you? Because I got the answers for the first question that you asked me earlier. So the electricity is for schools that don't have a PV, the photovoltaic, and the utility electricity is the way NV Energy actually names it. It's a supplement to the PV that we have. The photovoltaics produce a certain amount of electricity, and whatever the gap is between the need of the school and the PV provides, that gap is called the utility electricity. That's why it's less money than, so we have about 36 schools that have this kind of services. So primarily the PV will support the school. 36. Oh, 107, 103, 304. Yeah. You're welcome. Now back to the mobile classrooms data report. I believe this request is by Mr. Dis. I believe you're the one who asked for this one, so hopefully I can answer all your questions this afternoon. So, as a background, do I have this thing from? Okay. So basically, the sense of, or the goal for this report is to try to give you some historical data and facts about what mobiles are, and what are we going to do for next. How are we going to address the mobile issue in our district? The second fun factor is there are mobiles and there are modulars. So there are two different of building. They look maybe similar for a lot of people, but they are two different things. The one on the left is a mobile classroom, which means that it is manufactured outside of the site. It got assembled on site. We raise them up, and they may have the wheels under them. We put a skirt around them, and then when we don't need them, we just take them apart and move them. The modular buildings are very similar construction, but they are built over an actual foundation. We have to put all the foundation and the utilities and all that kind of stuff. So they are semi-permanent. They are permanently there, and the mobile ones are easily movable. We can use them for addressing capacities where we need them in spaces that we don't have enough time to build buildings, but we can take our inventory, actually, the open ones that we have, we move them from one location to the other. So it's the biggest recycling system that we do. We saved a lot of money by doing this. So I just want to give you a sense. When you see at a site, we need to understand whether we're going to talk about mobiles or modulars. They're two different things. Next slide is, this is some kind of, again, another fun fact. Since the inception, around 79 is what our record is showing. We have used about 156 total number of mobiles. And during the time to this day, we demoed about 14 of them. And 3 of them are what we call the Masbald, is a temporary closure of a mobile, which means that we lock the doors, turn the lights off, we leave the fire alarm because for any emergency, but it's not active, because the schools, they don't need them, so we don't want people to walk in and put them storage spaces and vandalism and all that kind of stuff. So the facts are basically, as of today, we have about 116 active mobiles at 56 schools, and that is about 211 classrooms. The reason we broke up that way is because sometimes mobiles come in pairs. In most cases, there are 2 classrooms. In some cases, they have toilets in them. We call those wet mobiles. And if they don't have any plumbing, any kind of sink or toilet, we call them dry, which most of the time we use them for offices too. So in terms of programming, sometimes they will be used for general ed classrooms. Sometimes they will be used for special ed classrooms, sometimes for office administration. In some instances, I see some mobiles being used as storage spaces or PE time. Schools use them as they see them fit. So these are kind of basic information for that. And the next one is part of what I was saying earlier. About 76 of them have some kind of a plumbing fixture. So they could be used for special ed, where there's a need for toilet right next to your classroom, so that you can actually move kids in and out easily without disturbing others. And 40 of them don't have any. So in some cases, some of these mobiles could stay there until we find them home, because removing them or storing them costs money. So we just leave them there until the need arises, and then we move them to a different location. By locations, we have, most of them are in the elementary school, but 70% of these mobiles are in elementary school. And next to it is, interestingly, in the high school. And if you notice them, we have about 8 of them in McLean and about 7 of them in Reed. And as Teresa mentioned earlier, we're going to move those, and then the students will be moving to the main building once we finish the project. And a couple of them, or 3 of them, will be used as an admin buildings on our sites sometimes. In terms of utilization, most of them are used for special ed use, and some of them, 75 of them are used for special. 62 of them are used for general ed, and about 43 of them are vacant right now. And it could be one side of the mobile is empty, but the other side is going to be used for computer classroom or music classroom or general ed classrooms. And 31 of them are used as offices, because we have some district office employees actually have offices in some of our mobiles at a school site. So there are some of them too. So when you see them, when you drive by and you see some of them, they are not all used for students. There could be some for different things. For this year, we only have one school with 2 classrooms at Hunter Lake that we're going to demo. In 2024. But as the projects through the FMP, like the Matthews and the Reed that you just Teresa mentioned, those mobiles will be removed once the project is done. But until then, we have to keep them on site. So facility modernization plan, and the mobile classrooms goes hand to hand now. So the FMP, the 2 major items that is being accomplished through the FMP, one is to move all the students from the mobiles into the main classroom, and to meet the minimum requirement from the education specifications, to make sure that those 2 are being achieved. So whenever we have a mobile and there's an FMP project, that will be addressed. So for the next couple of years, Reed, Matthew, Ecoloder, and Palmer, all the mobiles will be removed once the project is done, when the FMP is done. So as we go for the next 15 years, addressing all the issues for our schools, part of the FMP, at the end of the day, the goal is to remove all the mobiles out. With the exception that we don't know how the population is going to move, and in some cases, we may going to keep them for a little while just to make sure that the zoning effect for it or the migration may going to trigger. Those are the easiest solution or the fastest solution for overcapacity of schools that we need to do it, whether it's going to be the general population is raising or a special program is needed. In some cases, if there's a distraction, some special ed classrooms are distracting the rest of the building, the school choose to move some of those classrooms outside as a temporary solution. But going forward in the FMP, we're going to make sure that we're going to provide them a soundproof rooms so that they would not have that kind of effect. So that's the goal. Is that the last one that I have? I believe that's the last one I have, yes. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Mr. Diss.
Thank you for putting all this together. It's helpful to understand what the situation looks like. The biggest reason I wanted to talk about this today was because I remember clearly the campaign in 2016 convincing the voters why WC1 was needed. And the literal poster child, the picture that Mr. Sutton put on a lot of things was the mobiles up at McQueen. I remember those being in the materials out in the community, and I drive by there a lot, and I still see them all the time, and I drive by other schools in the district. The thing I didn't realize from the information you provided today was how many are actually located at elementary schools. And you have the asterisks on your list next to the ones that are providing kindergarten. And it looks like 46 out of those units are for kinder. Is there a reason why the vast majority are being used for kinder and not for other grades? Number one, that's kind of what I was thinking.
So back in 2008, the state put in kindergarten right? And they provided funding for us to house them, and the only option we had at the time in 2008 was to put portables on the sites to house kindergarten, all-day kindergarten. So when the state makes mandates and they don't fund them appropriately, that's where we get to house them.
Well, I mean, you could have put fifth or sixth graders at the time in the new mobile units, put the kindergartners in the, I'm wondering if it's the best idea to put the kids who need to have a good start to their school career going in my view, is a sub-adequate facility compared to the brick and mortar classrooms that other kids are in?
So that is an administration decision at the site too. So if you provide them a mobile, they can move students and staff around, but you get staff that is already taught in a school. They're set up in grade levels already next to each other. And a lot of times they don't move staff because that's a lot of work to move a whole classroom all over the place to accommodate that. So when they start with kindergarten in those, because that's the next grade that would come into those mobiles, they put them in those mobiles. But it is a site administrator's decision as to where they move staff and classrooms based off of that.
You also have a high percentage of the mobile units being used for special ed. What's the reasoning behind that? Seems like special ed students, they need a little bit more.
So again, that decision is being made by the school themselves. We don't really dictate that. So we don't have any control over who's using the spaces, because once you give them the building, the school administration will assign whoever needs it. From a couple of visits that we saw, the need for a close-by rest toilet for changing diapers and stuff like that, they choose to have a close-by toilet or dedicated toilet for that classroom only. Or the other one that I mentioned, some of them, there is a noise distraction, and the classroom, in the main building may not provide the same quality of sound system, so they intend to move them. But we have nothing to do with it. We just observe those things, but all that decision is being made by the schools themselves.
So moving forward, the way the district is going to address it is just going through with the normal facility modernization. And so on an annual basis, we'll take a look what schools need what, rather than kind of like a holistic, we're gonna attack all the mobile units at once over a 2 to 3 year period.
We'll be looking at them year by year as to what we can and can't divest our portfolio of. As we do rezoning with the facility modernization plan too, that could open up multiple schools at a time, right? So as we work with Matthews, and in that process, we'll be doing a rezoning of the schools that are close to that. It could create that opportunity to divest our portfolio of additional ones beyond just Matthews. But it's, at this point, class sizes are dictated by the state. If they change that, maybe it makes it better to where we can get rid of more per year. But at this point, until we can go through the modernization at all the schools, they will stay until we can do that. So year by year, and we're happy to bring you back in our capital renewal plan, any additional ones that we're able to divest our portfolio of, which we have. As you can see, we did it at Hunter Lake. We investigate them aggressively to see if we can get rid of them, because we don't like them any more than anybody else does. In fact, there's one out by our office that is getting demoed right now, that is in our parking lot, because we don't need it, and it's not conducive to actually working in at this point. It's so old.
Last question. So I was counting the numbers, and at North Valleys High School and Spanish Springs High School, in my view, those are relatively new high schools in our district. And we've got 5 at North Valleys and we've got 4 at Spanish Springs. Did we just not plan for all the growth? Is that why we had to put those in? We screwed up when we were deciding how big to build these schools?
Those schools were built 20 years ago. So a lot has changed with regard to growth and that in our neighborhoods, as well as pricing for housing. So North Valleys has pushed, right, it's grown because of the cost of housing out there. And so at Spanish Springs, those are two of the highest moving spaces right now that are inner city are moving out to with the apartments and that out there. So if you have a crystal ball for 20 years out to know where everything's going to go and where the student pockets are going to go based off of housing prices, that would be great.
Share that.
Well, I mean, crystal ball, so looking at North Valleys High School, looks like the first mobiles were put in 2004, 2005. That was shortly after the school opened. So you didn't need it. That tells me the projections were just off on how many kids were going to be going to school up there.
And projections are just that. They're projections based off of the best information we get from our partners with development, what comes and goes. We have a lot of development out in the North Valleys that is no longer happening now, right? So it was going. We thought we were going to have to build a new high school out there, and now that development has lost its approval. So things come and go and change throughout the process. So projections, we do the best we can, and if you look at our projections over the years, they only differ by a 1% or 2% here and there. But we're not perfect with projections.
Yeah. Well, going forward, if I could make a suggestion, because the perception of putting kindergartners and special ed kids as a majority of the students who are using these mobiles, it just doesn't look good. So, when we're going through the FMP in future years, if we could put a focus on getting those student populations out of these facilities, I think it's going to make all of us look a lot better.
In the Matthews modernization, we're building 2 new kindergarten classrooms specifically for kindergarten to get them out of there. And those new classrooms up at the top are special education classrooms. So you're asking a question that we've asked ourselves, saying that isn't where I would want my student to be either.
Exactly.
So we've asked those questions, and so we're working really hard to make sure we can get all those students under that roof in a room that provides the amenities they need.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Ivory?
I've got some simple questions. How do you deal with the single point of entry on the mobiles?
So the mobiles are behind the secure perimeter. So everybody who goes out to those mobiles has to come into the front door and then out a side door that's within the secure perimeter to get to them. So that door may have access. A teacher has to come in and supervise those students coming in if they need to, or there is a door that the students can use to get in freely for the restroom, the nurse, or counselors, or whatever they may need. But they're within the secure perimeter.
Okay, perfect. How much does it cost to demo one of these? Roughly.
Roughly, you're probably looking at $50,000 to $60,000 to demo, if they don't fall off the jacks in the middle of the street. And we've had that happen.
You mean
The contractor.
so you're towing them to a site basically?
The contractors tow them, and sometimes the axles are good and sometimes they're not. And we actually had one that we demoed out in Sun Valley a long time ago, and it fell off the axles, and the contractor didn't want it after that. So
Just left it in the street.
we had to yes, we had to go and fix it. Yes.
Okay. How much does it cost? So 50, 60,000, then isn't really the demo cost so much as that's the cost to move it? Am I understand that right? Or is that also, does that include off haul and then demo it in what do they do? Drive them to the demo?
When we demo them, we have utilities and all of that are hooked up to it that we have to put it back to the original condition. So it's not just driving them off, it's
Sure.
taking the electrical, the sewer, and all of that and making it safe off for that. Grading could happen depending on where it's at. Concrete ramps, walkways have to be demoed out of there to it sometimes at the base.
Okay.
So it's a lot of that as well.
Okay. Is there a plan in place as part of the all these schools that we're rebuilding, where when you're rebuilding a school with fairly new mobiles, is there a plan in place to take those new ones and swap them out with another school that has older ones? Is that the stuff that we're looking at doing, or are we just flat, we just keep it there until the wheels fall off and then we burn it to the ground and move on?
So as we work through those, if they are wet mobiles and newer, we will then move them to replace them in schools that are further down in the facility modernization so they can have a newer version of that.
Okay. And then finally, it seems as though there's going to be a point where there be no need to ever move one to another facility. We're going to hit that point eventually, that tipping point that's going to say, okay, all we do now is get rid of mobiles. Have we reached out? Have we got a plan in place? So we're reaching out to the cow counties, these smaller school districts and stuff that don't necessarily have the dollars we have. And even if we paid to move them to there, it might still be cheaper than moving it and demoing it. And anyway, I'm assuming we're dealing with that.
We have partnerships with all of those. They call us on a yearly basis. We call them to say, we have a mobile, would you like it? Or they call us and say, when you have one, we would love to have it if it's in good condition for that. So we absolutely would reach out to our partners to say, we have excess mobiles, we'd love to give it to you.
Perfect. And then finally, I think any that we have left over, if we can just take them over to the Grand Sierra, let them stack them up, build that new tower they're going to put up.
It's the parking.
That'd be a great foundation for it. So, thank you.
Mr. Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for my part, I want to state the patently obvious, which is none of us want mobiles for any uses. I think they have been a solution that we thought would be temporary and ultimately became more permanent. But I will say, having spoken to a number of teachers, including my own sister, who's a 30-year teacher in the district, that some of the mobiles are certainly better than others. And quite frankly, some of the teachers prefer to teach in the mobiles for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're team teaching, and the team teaching is just easier when the two teachers that are team teaching are next to each other. Sometimes with special ed, which is an area of my particular knowledge, it's the access to quicker restrooms that are in those mobiles. And then there's also some sense that they're kind of like their own little space. They're not attached to the building. The students find some comfort in being in those spaces rather than in the main building because they're not transferring between classrooms and hallways. So ultimately, I think, as much as we used the mobiles to pass WC1 and the picture of the fascia falling off and the bathrooms being broken was a helpful and useful thing. There are some practical reasons for teachers who choose and want to be in the mobiles. And I just wouldn't substitute my judgment about those for the educators. So I just want to empower the site folks to determine what their usage would be. And as they become decommissioned, we won't have any reason to grouse about it here. So please understand that I don't think anyone in this body wants to micromanage the decisions that are made by those site administrators and teachers as to why they've chosen to be in those rooms or what makes those more practical than other things. So, thank you so much.
Mr. Com.
Got a question. I remember out in Gerlach, we had all those mobile homes for the teachers that were getting very old. Is there?
So we still have those out in Gerlach for teacher housing out there. We have gone in several, we go in and maintain them. We reside them. We put new flooring in. And then we're also working with the city of Empire out there, and we have teacher leases out in their homes in that area as well. It is a big draw if you can have housing out there for those teachers in that school.
Is there any, these are sizable, or it's just too big to retrofit to make it a mobile?
So we're actually looking at that to retrofit any of ours that we could to be teacher housing and replace some of the older ones if they are new enough, and coming up with plans as a backup plan if we don't have enough teacher housing and leasing other spaces out in Gerlach.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate you giving us this information. Yeah, it's answered a lot for us, so I appreciate that. Thank you. With
I
that,
think we should call it the DIS report.
the DIS report. He's going to be around here for a while because I understand he's not going to leave until they're all gone. All right. We'll go ahead and move on to Item 3.01, public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Announcement of next meeting is scheduled for February 6, 2025. And then with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Tell them what.
We could see how.